steps. Mr. Karapidakis. So therefore we see the years going by and the market is developing, maybe the priorities are changing, maybe this change in priorities is creating some issues for the investors, but also in terms of the general framework. But we should all agree that storage is very important also for the network. So therefore, would you like to tell us a few words about how important is storage for the network security, and how we can make the right steps towards batteries, but at the same time safeguard the security of the network in the area? Good morning from myself, and I would also like to congratulate Mr. Panagoulis and his team for this exceptional forum that is very important in the sector. And starting from what you just said about the need for storage. Storage is above all, as we've heard in the previous panel by Mr. Margaris, is a technical matter. Storage is a requirement of renewables, and it has been such for many years. Initially, in order originally to start counterbalancing the variations of the capacity, but also to be able to absorb the variability of renewables. This is a very important issue beyond any other priorities, and this is something that we should already have here. Greece was at the kind of forefront of this, and there were some very innovative ideas even 20 years ago for the use of storage systems in renewable energy sources, and so there was the know-how and the willingness, but for many different reasons until now we haven't actually seen any significant projects in the renewable sector beyond the tender that we just heard about. So when we were talking about it back then, the renewables were much fewer. So now we're talking about a gigawatt number, which is not manageable. And it's not manageable if we do not use the four main tools that the system offers. One of them is interconnections, so the cross-border interconnections. Second, as I said earlier, is storage. Third is the management of the capacity, demand response, smart management, and also, as Mr. Papanasiou said, is the curtailments. This is a very important, a very significant tool. And you mentioned also that it might not be the kind of optimal algorithm, the static curtailment, but at this stage, there's a one-way road, and at some point we should go for a more dynamic model of curtailments. Therefore, it was mentioned that earlier that the need for renewables and how this must be integrated into the system in the national plan, as the Minister also mentioned today. She mentioned some figures which are very optimistic and very targeted to the strategic planning. But there we needed smaller steps. Smaller steps means that we need to focus on more kind of quality projects and not quantitative. So the qualitative factor should be more important than the quantitative. Now, more specifically, when we talk about electric space, when we talk about reserving electric space, let's say 25 gigawatts. How exactly do we define electric space? Personally, and I think it would be useful for all the different partners and for the academics to have a platform like the DIA has, and to have a similar platform for ADMIA that basically says what for each substation, what's the capacity level, how this is calculated, and how this can be reviewed, and how it can be in mixed stations, how we can have the minimum. With the algorithms that will be known to the market, that will be to know what exactly the capacity is. Because once we define electric space, then we can move to prioritization. First of all, we need to set out the technical framework and then to see who goes into that framework. And I'm saying that because what we're experiencing at the moment is just a bottleneck of projects, and we're trying to see what's the optimal way in order for them to move on. Because of course, the solution is not to stop it in terms of connection. We cannot say that we're closing the road and no cars can go through. The question is to see what needs to move forward. It's Mr. Papadanasiou and all the different academics that work in this, and the ministry. They've worked really hard because as soon as you waste a little bit of time, things move really fast. The same thing happens with the tender. As soon as you leave a few things behind, or if you change a little bit of capex, then you get to the point where you're in November and you still have the tender. You don't have the tender. Another thing that concerns the investors is the ones who are going to be successful in the tender. They don't know if by 2025 they will have completed their work, and that's where the ministry will have to negotiate some kind of extension. And to conclude, of course, it is clear that we should aim high, but at the same time it should be on a technical level, because first of all there is a technical problem, and then a business model is created, and then you look for the investments to cover that. That's why I said we need to set the goals. We need to find the next steps for achieving those goals. And then we need to find which are the different factors, which are the positives and the negatives. Then there must be some limits as well in order to be able to have a common ground for discussion. Yeah, this is more of a technical analysis so that we can set the limits. Because of course, this is something that's been discussed for many years. For the last 3, 4, 5 years, that's been on the table of discussions. But we see it's moving very slowly. That's not one of the easiest things in the world, but we must move forward more swiftly because everything else is moving, and we're going to find ourselves in that congestion that we just talked about.